He is not who you think he is. The narcissistic man is a very dangerous man, so be very careful when you're dealing with this type of man. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. The narcissistic man will sometimes brag about his wealth, his power, his success, his achievements. He has an exaggerated sense of self-importance, okay? He likes to inflate his talents, his abilities, his skills. It's because he wants to feel superior. He wants to feel like he's the man. He's looking for admiration. He's looking for praise. All right? He wants to feel like he's on top. So whenever you hear a man constantly bragging about his abilities, his skills, the things that he has, or his wealth, that is a red flag. He's looking for people to boost his ego, inflate his self-esteem. He's looking for praise. He just wants to feel like he's on top. He wants to feel like he's better than everybody. And don't confuse that with confidence. It's one thing to be confident and sure of yourself, but this man wants to belittle people. He wants people to feel inferior. He wants to feel like he's on top and better than everybody else, right? He wants to feel like he's just so important. Another narcissistic trait in men is that they will use manipulation tactics to get what they want. And those tactics include dominance, intimidation, and control. They will usually use these tactics in romantic relationships. So ladies, be very careful, because manipulation and control is witchcraft. This is why I want you ladies to have discernment. Practice discernment. Test the spirit. Because the narcissistic man knows who to target. He knows who's going to be a victim. He knows who to prey on. Okay? And he knows who he can mess with. He knows what type of woman he can do that to. He knows what type of woman he can't do it to. So you may find that he's constantly trying to control your decision making, your friendships, who you can hang around, who you can't talk to. He may try to separate you from your family. He may try to control your whereabouts, because he doesn't really want any outside influences in your ear who could potentially give you good advice. And he may be afraid that people like your family or your friends could see through his tactics and maybe warn you to leave him. So he may try to separate you from your friends and your family so he can have you all to himself to control. Okay, I'm telling you, this man is a very dangerous man. And sometimes you may feel like you're walking on eggshells to avoid any type of conflict, because you know he likes to use his intimidation tactics, his gaslighting and guilt tripping to try to control you. And he may use his dominance to be physically and emotionally abusive. So another trait is that he is very envious and competitive. I noticed that a lot of narcissistic men not only compete with other men, but they like to compete with women. In my other video where I talked about the narcissistic woman, I mentioned how she is very competitive with other women and jealous of other women. That's where I noticed the difference between the narcissistic man and the woman. The narcissistic man will compete and be envious of other men and women over wealth, power, success. He will debate with women. He will try to challenge women. He will be envious of other women's success and achievements. Okay, so you will find that he will be very jealous of women. So ladies, if you're in a relationship with a narcissistic man and you're doing better than him, you're more successful, you're confident, you're doing well for yourself, he will try to break you down. He will try to make you feel low, because remember, he wants to feel superior. He wants admiration. He wants people to feel like they are beneath him. He wants to feel like he's the man and he's on top, right? Because he has an exaggerated sense of self-importance, even if he doesn't really have much going on. He may be the one with low self-esteem. That's why he's constantly looking for admiration. That's why he relies on other people to boost his ego, because he doesn't have it. He doesn't have that confidence. He sees how people love you. He sees how smart you are. He sees how successful you are, how you're a go-getter, right? He sees that in you. He sees those qualities in you, and he's going to try to tear you down and make you feel low. And I'm telling you, ladies, if you let that man do that to you, you are going to lose yourself, and you're going to look up and you're going to say, who am I? You're going to be a complete different person. What happened to me? How did I get here? How did I allow this man to do this to me? Be very careful when you're dealing with a narcissistic man. It's a spirit that will break you down. It will tear you apart, inwardly and outwardly. And it's not only women who can be victims of this. He does this to men as well. Men, sometimes you could be friends with a narcissistic man. Sometimes the narcissistic man is a man in your family. Maybe it's your father. Maybe it's a brother. Just be very careful that you're not allowing this man to ruin you, to play mind games, to try to control you, use his manipulation tactics to get what he wants out of you. So another trait is that he is very arrogant and hypersensitive to criticism. He has a very dismissive attitude when it comes to correction. He doesn't do well with accountability, even though he may be the one who's trying to hold everybody else accountable. But the minute you hold him accountable, he reacts very poorly with rage, anger, and he gets very defensive, right? He can dish it, but he can't take it, pretty much. He can dish it, but he cannot take it, because he wants to feel like he's the smartest in the room. He wants to feel like he's the know-it-all. So that's why he gets very defensive when you correct him. This man does not know how to regulate his emotions properly. He's actually hypersensitive. Don't let the dominance and the intimidation fool you, right? He will put on a front, try to act macho and, deep voice, and I'm dominant and I'm alpha, right? You know how these men on these podcasts constantly scream how they're alpha, constantly scream how they're a man and screaming on a mic, but yet they're constantly arguing with women. And you just see how hypersensitive they are, how really overly emotional they really are, but yet they constantly call themselves alpha. It's all a front. And all you can sit there and wonder is like, what happened in your childhood? Something happened. Something is not right. And usually that's what it is. Sometimes it's something that happened in his childhood that's making him act this way. Okay, not all the time, but sometimes these traits are rooted in childhood trauma. It's rooted in hurt. It's rooted in pain. And now they're acting out with anger and rage because he doesn't know how to respond in a way where he's not overly emotional. Even if you give him a neutral comment, right, he will take it as a personal attack. So this is why you will find that the narcissistic man is emotionally and physically and verbally abusive. So if you're dealing with a narcissistic man, set boundaries. Okay, set boundaries. If you have to go to therapy, go to therapy. If you have to speak to family, speak to somebody that you can trust about what's going on. All right, so be very careful when you're dealing with this type of man. So hopefully this video was helpful. Please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in the next video.